Yishokeni min shikois pihu, ki tovim doidecha miyoyin. Pasuk in Shir Hashirim, where Chazal explain that these were the kisses between the beloved HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Klal Yisrael. What were these particular kisses that were more intoxicating than wine itself? Say Chazal, this was the moment at Har Sinai. The two kisses, Onochi Hashem Elokecha and Lo Yir Lecha Elohim Acherim, the first two of the Aseret HaDibros, these were given peh el peh. The most intimate connection that Klal Yisrael ever had with HaKadosh Baruch Hu was at that moment, and these were the Neshikos Pihu. The Vilna Gaon, in his commentary on Shir Hashirim, also develops this theme of this pasuk relating to the moment of Matan Torah. Pihu, he relates to the Hey and the Vav, where the Hey is the Chamisha Chumshe Torah, and the Vav is the Shisha Sidri Mishnah. The Hey and the Vav respectively connect us to the Torah Shebichtav and Torah Sheba'al Peh. But this moment of connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this was the ultimate moment of love. And we find in Chazal even more than this. We find that actually the transmission of Torah at Har Sinai, in addition to, of course, being a moment where we were given the gift of Torah and the Chochmas HaTorah and the values of Torah and the Emunah and the Chesed of Torah and all the wonderful ideas and Yeruchnias existing in the Torah, it also was a moment that totally transformed the lives of Klal Yisrael. It's an interesting Gemara in Maseches Shabbos, Daf Kuf Mem Vov, which speaks about the fact that, of course, the whole of mankind originally were created with a Tselem Elokim. Adam and Chava are described as having a Tselem Elokim, an inner spiritual compass, an inner spiritual voice, an inner spiritual essence, which was the hallmark of mankind and separated us from the animal world. But say Chazal that over the centuries there was a zuhama. Zuhama means there was pollution. Over millennia of paganism, corruption, violence and immorality, the nations of the world corrupted the Tzelem Elokim. There was a zuhama. Interestingly, this word has been adopted in modern Hebrew in the environmentalist sense of the word, where they speak about zihum avir, whereas the polluted air, zihum, comes from the Aramaic zuhama, that Chazal referred to as a spiritual pollution. The way in which mankind became polluted, but then the Gemara says something amazing. The Gemara says in Daf Kuf Mem Vav Amud Aleph in Maseches Shabbos that Yisrael she'amdu al Har Sinai Posca Zuhamosam. That Klal Yisrael, because they stood at Har Sinai and they received these Neshikos Pihu from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they received this intimate moment of Gilui Shechina from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because of that, Posca Zuhamosam, this cleaned out all the pollution and corruption which had accumulated, and Klal Yisrael were given a new neshama. Says the Gemara there, as opposed to the other Umos HaOlam, the nations of the world, who had to live until this day. They had to live with all the accumulated zuhama and didn't have a process by which to clean it out. The Gemara then asks, what about Geirim? And the Gemara says, no, Geirim also receive, in every generation, they receive this pure neshama that Klal Yisrael got at Har Sinai. And this was the gift, and that's one of the reasons we actually read Megillas Rus on Shavuot, to connect the concept of Geirus on a personal level with the concept of Matan Torah, which was in sense a Geirus of Klal Yisrael on a national level, but the result is that they were completely transformed. What's interesting is that there's another pasuk which Chazal use to describe the transformative effects of Torah, also coming from Shir Hashirim. The pasuk there speaks about Dvash v'cholov tachas l'shoneich. Milk and honey is under your tongue. And Chazal in the Medrash and Tanchuma refer this to Divrei Torah. That Divrei Torah are Dvash v'cholov. In what sense are they compared to milk and also to honey? So milk, on the simple level, milk is simply the most sustaining and building physical drink from the mother's milk to the baby to give it a strong, healthy existence. And it's essential, provides essential building blocks for the buildings of bones and muscles, etc. But the devash is not an essential food. The devash is there purely for pleasure. It's purely for our enjoyment. And indeed, the Divrei Torah are referred to in Tehillim Yutes as Mesukim Midvash, V'nofes Tufim, that the words of the Torah are as sweet as honey. So the sweetness of honey is the pleasure we have in the engaging with the Torah, the simcha and the hana that we have to be able to live a life according to the mitzvahs and the ideas of the Torah. And the chalav is simply the building blocks which enable us to have strength and to survive personally and as a nation, and that is the connection to that particular pasuk. But again, the idea here is something more interesting. Rav Kook says that there's something interesting about chalav and dvash, and that is both chalav and dvash are foods which are actually transformed from tomei to tahar. The milk of the cow, Chazal say, is actually created out of the dam. Now the blood of the cow is asur, right? Has to be salted out, we don't drink the blood. And yet the blood, once it's transformed into milk, is transformed from tomei to tahar. It becomes, not only is it something forbidden, it becomes an essential food. Similarly with devash, it's also interesting that the devash is also a food which comes tahar from tomei. That the bee itself that creates the honey is a forbidden insect, and yet the honey it produces suddenly is tahar, because these are a process, the honey making process within the bee in some way is considered to be external to the bee rather than internal to it, and therefore it is permitted. But Akol Panim, both the chalav and the vash, says Rav Kook, represents this amazing power of the Torah, which is able to transform tomei into Torah, to transform people who had a zuhama, people who have, and we all have, picked up in the world around us, from the culture around us and the ideas around us, certain elements of zuhama, certain elements which are contrary to the kedusha of the Torah, and yet engaging with Torah is devash v'cholov tachash l'shoneich. That gives us the power to transform Klal Yisrael and Posca Zuha Moson, and to give them a completely new neshama. And indeed, the Kuzari, Sefer Kuzari, one of his central themes in the whole book, is how Klal Yisrael at Har Sinai received a power which was me'al ha-seichel, which was more than the cognitive, intellectual seichel of the Tzelem Elokim. They received a neshama which enabled us to engage directly, both with our emunah with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, our tefillah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and our understanding of the Torah. All this is the devash v'cholov tachas l'shoneich, and hence we have the minhag already many centuries ago. The Orchos Chaim, Rabbi Yaakov Milunil, in his Sefer Orchos Chaim, relates that the minhag was on Shavuos to have milk and to have honey. Milk products and honey products, because of this pasuk, devash v'cholov tachas l'shoneich. This was the origin of the minhag. Rabbi Yaakov Emden also later on records this pasuk and this connection with Torah as part of the minhag. So really, Shavuos and Matan Torah was not only a day when we received the Torah and we then knew how to live as Jews, but actually totally transformed Klal Yisrael. That Klal Yisrael, and Chazal even go into greater detail and say that at the moment they heard Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Parcha Nishmasan, for a moment they, in a sense, the neshama left them. They died, in a certain sense. And then they came back to life again with a new neshama. A neshama that was able to engage with Torah, to sense the masikus, the beauty, the sweetness, the joy out of living a life of avodas Hashem and of Torah, of mitzvahs. And this was really the great achievement and the great idea behind Chag HaShavuos, Zman Matan Torasenu, and why it's such a great simcha, because we became transformed into different types of people. It is often said, just finally, one last idea, it's often said that there's no unique mitzvah on Shavuos. There's no sukkah, there's no lulav, there's no shofar, no matzahs. But there is, interestingly, a mitzvah which is mentioned in the Magen Avraham in Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim Siman Samach, when he speaks about Birkas Kriya Shema, and there he says that in the paragraph of Ava Rabba or Avas Elam, we speak about the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'onu v'charto mikolam v'loshayin v'kerev tonu l'shimcha agodo sela be'emes. We're talking about the moment of Matan Torah, and this is, he says, a kiyum of a mitzvah min ha-Torah, right? With a pasuk in Devarim chapter 4 in Parshas V'eschanan, where the pasuk there says, "Hisham elacho shma nafshecha ma'id." You got to be very careful. Pen tishkach es advarim sharo enecha, never to forget the most important thing that you ever experienced. And what was that? Says the pasuk there in chapter 4, Yom asher amaratu lifnei Hashem Elokecha b'chayrev. The day that we stood at Har Sinai, received the Torah, we were transformed into a mamleches kohanim v'goy kodesh. And that is really our simcha for Shavuos. I wish everybody a Chag Matan Torah Sameach. We should all have the zechus to feel the sweetness and the beauty of the Tvash v'cholov Tachas l'sharneich. We should be zeicha indeed to receive the Torah and to have our neshamas once again every year enhanced by this wonderful mitzvah of reconnecting to the neshikos pihu, the kisses directly from the Rebbeinu Shalom to Klal Yisrael Peh al Peh b'chein Yehi Ratzon.